You know, I'm a simple guy. I pay my taxes, I attempt to recycle correctly, which, let's be honest, feels like advanced calculus sometimes, and I mostly just want to be left alone with my slightly too loud classic rock and my questionable DIY projects. This neighborhood, all leafy streets and matching mailboxes? It was supposed to be quiet. Emphasis on supposed to be. I'd bought into the suburban dream, or at least the slightly discounted HOA-governed version of it. That's Brenda, our street's self-appointed guardian of, well, mostly her own opinions, and she has a lot of them. I first encountered the full force of Brenda when she accosted the poor kid mowing my lawn, claiming his lines weren't displaying adequate respect for the inherent geometry of the cul-de-sac. The kid just looked at her, blinked, and kept mowing. A tiny hero, that one. I'm out in my front yard on a typically quiet Saturday morning. The sun's out, birds are chirping, the whole 9 yards. I'm wrestling with a sprinkler head that's decided its true calling is to water the damn sidewalk instead of my parched petunias. Coffee's going cold beside me. This is my peace, you know? Then I hear it. The voice. Like a rusty chainsaw trying to sing opera. No, no, Bertram. It's Brenda, of course, addressing the unfortunate soul who I assume is Bertram, her landscaper. He's a stooped fellow who always looks like he's bracing for impact. 3 degrees to the left. Are you even listening? The agapanthus needs to dominate the petunias, not cower before them. I sigh, jamming the sprinkler head back into place with more force than strictly necessary. Bertram catches my eye for a split second, a look of shared suffering passing between us. I give him a tiny, almost imperceptible nod. We, the Bertrams and Mikeys of the world, we had to stick together. Later that week, I'm coming home from work, brain still buzzing from a pointless 2-hour meeting about synergy or some other corporate buzzword. And I see it. Brenda's chariot. A pearl-white Cadillac Escalade so large it probably has its own zip code, and so reflective it could blind an astronaut. And it's parked with its enormous, chrome-laden rear bumper, clearly, unequivocally, infringing on the big red fire hydrant at the end of her driveway. Not completely blocking it, mind you, just asserting dominance over it. Like a hippo sitting too close to you on a park bench. I mutter to myself, slowing my car. That's optimistic parking. My initial reaction? Mild annoyance, a blip on the radar. She probably just misjudged it, I think, pulling into my own driveway. Or maybe the hydrant leaned in a bit when she wasn't looking. Yeah, that was it. Predatory hydrants. It was a growing problem in the suburbs. The next day I'm grabbing my mail, and there's Brenda, wrestling a surprisingly large Amazon box out of her own mailbox. Opportunity, Mikey, I think. Be the change you want to see in the parking. Morning, Brenda, I say, all casual, friendly neighbor charm. Say, I couldn't help but notice your car was a little close to the hydrant yesterday. Just, you know, in case the fire department ever needs it in a hurry. Those guys move fast. I even offer a little chuckle. Smooth! Brenda turns, appraising me like I'm a newly discovered and particularly uninteresting species of garden slug. The Amazon box is clutched to her chest like a shield. My car? She says, her voice dripping with the kind of condescension usually reserved for people who use speakerphone in crowded elevators. Oh, I'm sure it's perfectly fine, Michael. She always calls me Michael. I haven't gone by Michael since my grandma used it when I was about to get a lecture on why feeding cookies to the dog was fiscally irresponsible. I've been parking on this street for 15 years. I think I know how to park. Right, just there's that red zone on the curb. I try, pointing vaguely. Brenda cuts me off with a dismissive hand wave, a gesture that somehow manages to be both imperious and pitying. It's barely touching the line. Besides, it's an emergency vehicle access. When was the last time we had a fire here, Michael? Honestly, Some people just look for problems where none exist. She huffs, pivots with surprising agility for someone wielding a box the size of a small microwave, and marches towards her house. Okay, I say to her, retreating back, and the equally retreating Amazon logo. So polite was not on the menu. Duly noted. The first real flicker of irritation sparks in my chest. This wasn't about a few inches of red paint. This was about, well, it was about her being Brenda, mostly. My next stop, the HOA. Surely the Homeowners Association, the defenders of property values and enforcers of the sacred covenant of beige-colored fences, would see the clear and present danger, or at least the clear and present parking violation. I send a polite email, complete with a discreetly snapped photo of the Escalade cozying up to the hydrant. Days pass. Crickets. So, I call. I'm treated to 5 minutes of elevator music that sounds like a Casio keyboard having a seizure in a wind tunnel. Finally, a voice, dripping with apathy. Greenwood Estates HOA, Jan speaking. How may I underwhelm you? Okay, she didn't say that last part, but it was heavily implied. Hi, Jan. I'm calling about a parking complaint. A car consistently blocking a fire hydrant on Primrose Lane. Parking complaint? She sighs, the sound of 1,000 shattered dreams in that one breath. Yes, you'll need to fill out Form 7B, subsection 9, Vehicular Nuisance and Obstruction Report. You can download it from our website, assuming the GeoCities page still loads. Mail it in triplicate. We review parking disputes on the 3rd Tuesday of alternating months, provided there's a quorum, and the moon is in Jupiter. Alternating months? I echo, dumbfounded. What if there's a fire before the 3rd Tuesday of an alternating month when the moon is correctly aligned with Jupiter, Jan? A beat of silence. Sir, do you have a current emergency to report? Is something actively on fire right now? Her tone suggests that if not, I'm wasting precious seconds of her day. Seconds she could be using to contemplate the futility of existence. No, but... Then please follow the procedure. Have a Greenwood great day. Click. I stare at my phone. It hits me with the force of a badly parked Escalade. Brenda didn't just ignore the HOA. Brenda was the HOA. Or at least she was the queen bee, the apex predator. The other board members were probably too terrified to question her parking, lest she unleash a passive-aggressive tirade about their overgrown azaleas at the next meeting. This was a one-woman state of entitlement. My frustration is starting to simmer. This isn't just about parking, it's about the principle, the audacity, the sheer unadulterated Brendacity of it all. All right, so direct confrontation failed. Bureaucratic channels were a dead end, clogged with apathy and triplicate forms. Time for Plan C. Or was it D? I was losing count, but my resolve was solidifying. My next brilliant idea, hatched in the dead of night, fueled by lukewarm coffee and an overdose of true crime documentaries, an anonymous note. Very polite, of course, laminated even for that touch of class and weather resistance. Friendly reminder, it read, in a nice, non-threatening Calibri font. Please keep hydrant clear for emergency access. Your cooperation is appreciated. Thanks, a concerned neighbor. I felt like a suburban James Bond, if Bond's missions involved less Aston Martins and more passive-aggressive stationery. I crept out under the cover of darkness. Okay, it was like 9:30 p.m., but the streetlights were on, and slipped it under her windshield wiper. Mission accomplished. I scurried back to my house, heart pounding with a mixture of adrenaline and the fear of Brenda catching me on her doubtlessly numerous ring cameras. The next day, I peek out my window. Brenda's Escalade is there, naturally, and it's parked even closer to the hydrant. If it were any closer, it'd need a library card for the fire department's reading room. The note is gone. But then my phone buzzes. It's a notification from the community Facebook group, a digital den of lost dog posters, recommendations for plumbers who may or may not show up, and, of course, Brenda's occasional royal decrees. Her post is a masterpiece of performative outrage, complete with at least 7 different angry face emojis and an inexplicable sprinkling of the nail-painting one. To the so-called concerned neighbor who thinks it's appropriate to leave cowardly, passive-aggressive notes on people's private property, she'd typed, the caps lock clearly straining under the force of her indignation. If you have an issue, perhaps you should have the guts to speak to me directly, like an adult, instead of resorting to such childish tactics. Some people in this neighborhood clearly have too much time on their hands and should perhaps focus on their own crumbling driveways and questionable lawn gnome collections instead of harassing law-abiding citizens who contribute significantly to our property values. #busybody #. Harassment #. Leave me alone #. This is why we can't have nice things. My blood runs cold. The crumbling driveway. That was a direct hit. I had been meaning to get those cracks sealed. And my lawn gnome, Bartholomew, was a cherished family heirloom, thank you very much. The comment section explodes. Sharon from down the street. You tell 'em, Brenda. Some people have no respect. Sharon's prize-winning poodles frequently used my lawn as their personal latrine, but that was apparently fine. Dave from 3 doors over. Brenda, while I agree about direct communication, fire hydrant access is pretty important, isn't it? Just saying. Dave was immediately digitally dogpiled by Brenda's acolytes. Brenda replying to Dave. Dave, dear, I am perfectly aware of all city ordinances. My vehicle is not an obstruction. Perhaps you should worry less about my parking and more about the deplorable state of your holiday inflatable Santa last Christmas. It was leaning, Dave. Leaning. I close Facebook. My head is throbbing. She'd weaponized my driveway and Bartholomew against me. This woman wasn't just an HOA Karen. She was a Machiavellian genius of petty tyranny. The stress was getting real. My eye had started twitching. This wasn't just about a hydrant anymore. This was war. A very polite, suburban war, but war nonetheless. A few days later, fate decided to give me a little nudge, or maybe a full-blown shove. It's late afternoon, that golden hour when everyone's firing up their grills. The smell of charcoal and sizzling mystery meat fills the air. Then, a different kind of smoke. Thicker, angrier. Sirens. Not the distant, ignorable kind. These are close, getting closer. I rush to my front window, Bartholomew the gnome, my silent, judgmental companion. A few houses down, Jim, nice guy, terrible cook, has apparently mistaken his gas grill for a space shuttle launch pad. A plume of black smoke is billowing from his backyard, and I can see orange flickering. Not a 5-alarm blaze, but definitely more than a burnt burger. His wife is on the lawn, flapping her hands. The fire truck, a gleaming red behemoth, swings onto our street. And then it stops. For a few crucial seconds, it's stuck. Not by Brenda's Escalade, thankfully. Her car isn't even home. It's a minivan, parked awkwardly by someone attending little Timmy's birthday party across the street, half on the curb, half off. The firefighters are gesturing. The driver's window is down. A strained voice yells, "Move it, folks! Come on!" Finally, the minivan's owner, looking flustered and covered in what appears to be blue frosting, sprints out and pulls it forward. The fire truck lurches on. I'm out on my lawn by now, along with half the neighborhood, watching the firefighters quickly douse Jim's overenthusiastic BBQ. One of them, coiling a hose, mutters to his colleague, loud enough for me to overhear. "Always something. Seconds count, people. Every damn second." He doesn't look at me. He doesn't know me. But his words hit me like a physical blow. Seconds count. That was it. That little moment of chaos, of real, tangible risk. It wasn't Brenda's fault this time, but it was a flashing red warning light in my brain. This wasn't just about my annoyance, or Bartholomew's honor, or even my crumbling driveway. This was actual, potential, life and limb stuff. She was playing games with safety. My resolve, which had been simmering, now flash-boiled. The casual annoyance, the frustrated sighs, they morphed into a righteous, albeit slightly unhinged, anger. The very next morning, I'm leaving for work, still stewing over Jim's BBQ and the firefighter's words. I back out of my driveway, and there it is. Brenda's Escalade. It's not just near the hydrant. It's not just infringing. It is parked squarely, defiantly, directly in front of the fire hydrant, as if she'd received a divine challenge and accepted it with gusto. Her front bumper is practically kissing the bright red paint. It's a statement, a declaration, a vehicular middle finger to society. I stop my car in the middle of the street. I just stare. "That's it," I whisper. She'd thrown down the gauntlet. She'd basically double-dog dared the fire department god and anyone with a shred of common sense. And in that moment, something in my brain, something that usually championed reason and de-escalation, just snapped. It didn't just snap. It shattered into a million pieces, and those pieces reassembled themselves into a very, very bad, but also strangely beautiful idea. My drive to work is a blur. The PowerPoint presentation I'm supposed to be finalizing? Forgotten. The TPS reports? Ancient history. My mind is consumed. The idea started as a flicker. What would make her move it for good? A crane? A strategically placed family of skunks taking up residence in her undercarriage? Then, a memory surfaces, unbidden. My Uncle Leo. He owned a small construction company. Years ago, I'd helped him out one summer. He once used a water tanker, a big rumbling thing, to quickly settle the dust on a massive demolition site before the EPA guys showed up. The image of that powerful, arcing spray. "A water tanker!" I breathe, the words tasting like rebellion and sweet, sweet revenge. Not to hit her car, heavens no, I'm not a monster, I'm a concerned citizen. But to landscape. Yes, to vigorously, unequivocally, and very, very wetly landscape the patch of city-owned grass around the hydrant. And, as luck would have it, my own patch of grass, which conveniently bordered said hydrant zone. If her car happened to be in the, accidental irrigation zone, well, that would be an unfortunate but entirely foreseeable consequence of parking like a menace, wouldn't it? The absurdity of it hits me, and I almost laugh out loud in my depressingly beige cubicle. My colleague Henderson gives me a weird look, but the more I think about it, the more perfect it seems. It's theatrical. It's nonviolent. Mostly. It's poetic justice delivered via high-pressure H2O. The rest of the workday is a blur of covert Googling on my phone under the desk. Rent water tanker, my town. Local water delivery services cost? Is it illegal to overwater your own lawn if a badly parked SUV gets consequentially damp? The search results are wonderfully ambiguous. Perfect. This is happening. The decision was made. The Rubicon, or in this case, the curb, was about to be crossed. Now, for the tricky part, finding someone willing to pilot a multi-ton vessel of hydraulic justice down my quiet suburban street. My home office, a glorified closet overflowing with old tech and shattered dreams, becomes mission control. I start calling local water services and contractors. The first few calls are unhelpful, to put it mildly. Contractor number 1, who sounds about 12, responds to my carefully worded request for localized, high-volume soil saturation services with a bewildered, "You want a 2,000-gallon tanker to water your lawn? Sir, do you own a football field? We mostly do pool fills and, like, construction sites, you know?" "It's very, very thirsty grass," I explain, trying to sound like a man deeply concerned about his turf's hydration levels. And it's a public safety initiative. Hydrant access, you know. Gotta keep that area clear and the soil compliant. Right, he says, the skepticism practically dripping from the phone. Let me just check our availability and get right back to you. He never does. Shocking. Contractor number 2 is a gruff, suspicious-sounding fellow. Water tanker near an HOA Karen's car? He barks, after I, perhaps unwisely, give him a little too much of the backstory. Sounds like you're trying to start something, buddy. My insurance doesn't cover acts of gleeful retribution. And I got a feeling that's what you're cooking up. He hangs up before I can explain that it's more like gleeful civic improvement. Okay, maybe public safety initiative wasn't the best phrasing, and maybe being too honest about Brenda was a mistake. I needed someone who spoke my language, the language of creative problem-solving and malicious compliance. After a few more duds, I stumble upon an online ad with a grainy picture of a massive, slightly rusty tanker truck. The ad reads, Gus's Bulk Water and Extreme Landscaping Solutions. No job too weird, no patch too dry. We deliver! The extreme landscaping part calls to me. This has potential. I dial the number. A gravelly voice, the kind that's marinated in cheap coffee and unfiltered cigarettes for decades, answers on the second ring. Gus speaking. You need water, or you need a problem solved with water, Bingo. I think the second one, Gus, I say, a wave of relief washing over me. I lay it all out. The hydrant, Brenda, the Escalade, the HOA's spectacular uselessness, my mounting existential dread, the whole sordid tale. I even mention Bartholomew the gnome, just to paint the full picture of my suffering. There's a long pause on the other end of the line. I hold my breath. Did I go too far? Was Gus now picturing me as a gnome-obsessed lunatic with a water vendetta? Then, a slow chuckle rumbles through the phone. It starts low, then builds into a genuine, hearty laugh. Son, Gus says, his voice brimming with amusement. You've come to the right place. An HOA queen bee blocking a fire plug, you say? That grinds my gears something fierce. Used to be a volunteer firefighter back in the day. Town of Harmony, upstate. Seen what a few wasted seconds at a hydrant can do. Lost a good barn once 'cause some yahoo parked his pickup too close. I can practically hear the grin in his voice. This wasn't just a job for Gus. This was a calling, a sacred duty. I'd found my H2O no you don't Brenda sensei. Now, this ain't gonna be subtle, Gus continues, his tone shifting to business. My girl, the Deluge, she's a 4,000-gallon vintage beauty, built like a tank, 'cause she practically is one. She makes a statement. We gotta do this smart, though. Don't want you ending up in the clink, just damp and satisfied. We arranged to meet the next day at a local greasy spoon diner, the kind where the coffee is strong enough to strip paint, and the waitress calls everyone on. Gus is exactly as I pictured. Barrel-chested, faded tattoos peeking out from under his flannel shirt. A baseball cap pulled low over eyes that have seen a thing or two. He's got a handshake like a vice grip, and a smile that's half mischief, half reassurance. Over lukewarm coffee and a plate of questionable bacon, we huddle over the napkin on which I've hastily sketched a map of my front yard, Brenda's driveway, and the all-important hydrant. Gus, turns out, is a connoisseur of bylaws and loopholes. He stabs a sausage-sized finger at my napkin map. Okay, here's the play. We're not damaging her car. Oh no. We are conducting essential grounds maintenance and soil saturation for improved emergency vehicle access and route stability around a critical public utility. Got a nice ring to it, eh? It's beautiful, Gus, I say, genuinely impressed. See this patch of dirt here? He says, pointing to the no man's land between the curb and my actual lawn, right where the hydrant sits. Technically city easement, but they never touch it. Your property line, according to this fine cartography, he taps my napkin, ends here. We aim the deluge right at this converging point. She'll create a localized micro-wetland. If Ms. Escalade happens to be occupying said future wetland, well, that's just unfortunate timing on her part. A real shame. He winks. It's a surprisingly effective wink for a man his size. A micro-wetland, I repeat, savoring the words. Gus, you're a poet. And, he adds, leaning in conspiratorially, we'll need to make sure we're scene testing hydrant flow compatibility with the new landscaping. Can't just assume the city's water pressure is up to snuff for our enhanced greenery. That's important. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We discuss timing. A weekday morning seems best, right after she leaves for her aggressively early Pilates class. Or maybe even better, when she's home and can witness the majesty of the deluge firsthand. Gus votes enthusiastically for the latter. Maximum psychological impact, son. You want her to see her domain become a swamp. Psychological impact, I murmur, a slow grin spreading across my face. I like the sound of that. Brenda's been waging psychological warfare on me for weeks with that damn Escalade. It's time to return fire, with significantly more sigh. Then comes the question of cost. Gus names a figure. It's not insignificant. My dreams of a new riding mower might have to be put on hold. But then he looks at me, really looks at me, and I see that twinkle in his eye again. Tell you what, Mikey, he says, clapping me on the shoulder hard enough to realign my spine. For the sheer, unadulterated joy of seeing an HOA bully get her comeuppance, and 'cause I like your moxie, I'll give you the Community Service Hydrant Liberation discount. Still gonna cost you for fuel and my time, but consider the rest my contribution to neighborhood harmony. He was right. Some things are priceless. This felt like one of them. My riding mower could wait. Justice, however, was on an express delivery schedule. The days leading up to D-Day Deluge Day, as I'd started calling it in my head, are a blur of nervous excitement and barely suppressed giggles. I can barely sleep. Every time I see Brenda's Escalade, still defiantly snuggled up to that hydrant, my heart does a little jig of anxious anticipation. Is this really happening? Am I really about to unleash 4,000 gallons of righteous fury onto a patch of suburban grass? I practice my calm, innocent lines in the mirror. Just watering, officer. Is there a problem? Oh, hello, Brenda. Lovely day for some intensive hydration, isn't it? I sound like a lunatic. A polite, well-meaning lunatic. I triple confirm with Gus. He's ready. The deluge is fueled and feisty, Mikey, he texts, followed by a winky face emoji that, coming from Gus, is both hilarious and slightly terrifying. Just say the word, and we make it rain. This was either the most brilliant or the most catastrophically stupid thing I'd ever done. Maybe both. The line was getting increasingly, delightfully blurry. D-Day dawns. Or rather, Deluge Day. It's a Tuesday. Bright, sunny, birds chirping, the whole stereotypical suburban morning, completely oblivious to the impending Hydrogeddon. And there it is. Brenda's Escalade. Parked, as if by cosmic decree, directly in front of the fire hydrant. It's almost like she knows something's up and is doubling down, daring the universe to do its worst. Her front bumper is practically nuzzling the red paint. She woke up and chose violence, I mutter, peering through my blinds. Or at least vehicular obstruction of a critical emergency apparatus. Little did she know I'd woken up and chosen large-scale hydrodynamics. My hands are clammy. I send Gus the coded text we'd agreed upon. The eagle has landed, and it's blocking the damn nest. Repeat, the eagle is on the nest. Gus, ever the professional, texts back almost immediately. Roger that, ground control. The rain is coming. ETA 10 minutes. Popcorn ready? I attempt to look casual. I go out front, armed with my hedge trimmers, and start listlessly snipping at an already immaculate bush. My heart is pounding like a hyperactive woodpecker against my ribs. Neighbors are starting their day. Mr. Henderson, my across-the-street connoisseur of local happenings, is ambling down his driveway in his bathrobe to get his newspaper. He waves. I wave back, a jerky, unnatural movement. Then I hear it. A low rumble in the distance. It grows louder, a deep thrumming that vibrates through the soles of my sneakers. Heads turn, dogs bark. Mr. Henderson pauses, paper halfway to his nose, and squints down the street. And then the deluge rounds the corner. She is magnificent. A beast of a tanker, painted a surprisingly cheerful and ironic fire engine red, though clearly a veteran of many a thirsty lawn and dusty construction site. She's slightly battered, a few dings here and there, but she radiates raw, unadulterated power. Gus is at the wheel, a faded blue bandana tied around his head, looking like a road warrior about to liberate a besieged gas station. He maneuvers the massive truck with surprising grace, the engine roaring like a contented monster. Mr. Henderson, a man not easily impressed, actually lowers his newspaper. "Well now," he says, his voice a mixture of awe and confusion. "That's not something you see every day, Mikey. Expecting a drought?" I try for a nonchalant chuckle. It comes out sounding like a strangled yelp. "Just some proactive hydration, Mr. Henderson. Gotta keep the roots happy, you know. Deep watering." My voice is at least an octave higher than usual. I sound like I'm discussing the weather with a water buffalo that's holding my family hostage. The deluge pulls up, Gus expertly positioning it to align with our pre-designated micro-wetland zone. It's a tight fit between my mailbox and Mrs. Gable's prize-winning and aggressively pruned azaleas, but Gus handles the deluge like it's a sports car. The air brakes hiss with a satisfying finality. Just as Gus cuts the engine, Brenda's front door bursts open. She's in her lurid pink power-walking outfit, visor askew, a look of utter bewilderment on her face that quickly morphs into pure, unadulterated outrage as she takes in the spectacle of a 4,000-gallon water tanker parked on her curb. "What in the Sam Hill is that thing?" she shrieks, her voice capable of shattering glass at 50 paces. "You, driver, you can't park that industrial hazard here. This is a residential area. I'm calling the HOA. I am the HOA." Gus, bless his heart, just gives her a polite, almost deferential nod from the cab, then swings out and begins the process of hooking up the main hose, an absolute python of a rubber tube, probably 6 inches in diameter. I take a deep breath, trying to channel my inner Zen master, and step forward, hands casually in my pockets, feigning an air of mild surprise. "Oh, morning, Brenda. Lovely day, isn't it? Just getting some essential landscaping done." "Gus here." I gesture towards my co-conspirator, who gives Brenda another cheery wave. "Is helping me with a rather persistent dry patch I've been meaning to address. And, you know, while he's here, we figured we'd ensure optimal emergency access around the hydrant. Safety first, right?" Brenda is sputtering, her face turning an alarming shade of puce that clashes spectacularly with her pink outfit. "Landscaping? With that monstrosity? Are you insane, Michael? You're going to destroy the street. My property values, my award-winning zinnias are hyperventilating." "Just my property, Brenda," I say, my voice a soothing balm of utter insincerity. "And the city easement, of course, all perfectly above board. Gus has all the paperwork." Gus, on cue, pats a bulging, official-looking binder he's now retrieved from the cab. It probably contains his lunch and a copy of Trucker's Monthly, but Brenda doesn't know that. The 1 minute later moment, the one that would eventually become the title of my legendary, in my own mind, YouTube video was approaching. Gus finishes connecting the behemoth hose to a nozzle that looks like it belongs on a battleship. He catches my eye and gives me a subtle, almost imperceptible thumbs up. Showtime. I clear my throat, trying to project an air of authority I absolutely do not feel. "All right, Gus," I announce, perhaps a little too loudly, ensuring Brenda gets the full audio experience. "Let's give this thirsty ground what it desperately needs. Full pressure on Zone 1, the, Hydrant perimeter enhancement and critical access clarification area." Brenda is now on her phone, jabbing at the screen with a furious finger, presumably speed dialing the HOA, herself, the police, the National Guard, and possibly NATO. "Yes, an emergency, a maniac! He's got a weaponized water truck. He's threatening my azaleas and my Escalade. It's a targeted aquatic assault." Gus, bless his cotton socks, climbs atop the deluge like a seasoned sea captain ascending the rigging. He hefts the massive nozzle, a cannon designed to dispense not death, but extreme dampness. He aims it carefully, not directly at her precious pearl-white Escalade. Oh no, that would be too obvious. Too aggressive. He aims it at the patch of parched grass and compacted dirt directly beside and slightly in front of it, exactly where the resulting deluge and subsequent runoff will create maximum muddy chaos around her illegally parked vehicle. Gus grins down at me, a wild, joyful glint in his eyes. "Opening the floodgates, Captain Mikey!" He bellows over the rumble of the tanker's idling pump. He yanks a large red lever. There's a colossal whoosh. A torrent of water, thousands of gallons per minute, erupts from the nozzle with the force of a ruptured dam. It's not a sprinkle. It's not a shower. It's a localized, highly concentrated biblical event. It was glorious. The sheer, unadulterated power of it. Like a miniature Niagara Falls, if Niagara Falls had a specific personal vendetta against an improperly parked luxury SUV and its smug owner. The water hits the parched earth with the force of a meteor strike. Dust, pebbles, and small, terrified insects are launched skyward. The ground, hard and unyielding moments before, instantly surrenders, transforming into a churning, roiling brown soup. It's like one of those nature documentaries, but instead of a wildebeest migration, it's the immediate and violent birth of a suburban swamp. And Brenda's pristine, pearl-white Escalade? Oh, it's getting the full spa treatment. Not a direct hit from the main water cannon, mind you. Gus is a professional, an artist of aqueous assault. But the collateral saturation is immense. A colossal wave of muddy spray erupts outwards, enveloping the Escalade's gleaming flanks. It's like it's being mud-bombed in slow, glorious motion. Clods of wet earth slap against the doors. Rivulets of brown water stream down the windows, leaving muddy tears on its smug, oversized face. Brenda lets out a scream. It's not a human sound. It's a noise that could curdle milk, summon ancient demons, and make small children cry in the next county. "My car! You maniac! You're ruining it! I'll sue you! I'll sue this whole street! I'll have your lawn gnome for this, Michael!" She's trying to shield her eyes from the spray with one hand and film the unfolding catastrophe with her phone in the other. A bizarre, sputtering dance of impotent rage. I take a deep breath, trying to project an aura of utter calm amidst the watery chaos. "Just ensuring adequate soil moisture, Brenda," I shout over the roar of the deluge, my voice surprisingly steady. "It's vital for the local ecosystem, you know? And crucial for hydrant visibility and access. Think of the children." I even managed to take a casual sip from a bottle of water I'd conveniently brought out with me. Hydration is important during major landscaping projects. Okay, maybe ecosystem was a bit much. And the think of the children line was pure, unadulterated opportunism. But in for a penny, In for 4,000 gallons of well-aimed justice, right? The neighborhood spectacle is now in full swing. Front doors are open. People are on their lawns, phones out, a mixture of horror, disbelief, and poorly concealed glee on their faces. Mrs. Peterson, the sweet old lady from 2 doors down who bakes award-winning apple pies and always has a kind word, is covering her mouth with both hands, her eyes wider than I've ever seen them, but there's a definite twinkle of amusement in there. Young Timmy from across the street, a kid who usually communicates only in grunts and Roblox references, is literally jumping up and down shouting, "Awesome! Do it again! Make a mudslide!" And Mr. Henderson? My man, Mr. Henderson, has actually pulled up a green plastic lawn chair to the edge of his driveway. He's got a Tupperware container of what looks suspiciously like popcorn. He offers some to his wife, who looks utterly scandalized, but also like she can't quite tear her eyes away. Best darn entertainment we've had in this cul-de-sac since that flock of wild turkeys invaded Brenda's award-winning petunia bed last spring, I hear him declare to her, his voice full of delight. I am, at this moment, a local legend, or possibly a local lunatic about to be arrested. The reviews are probably mixed, but they are definitely coming in loud and clear. Gus, bless his hydrodynamic heart, isn't just dumping water, he's conducting a symphony of saturation. He expertly adjusts the massive nozzle, painting the area around the besieged hydrant with sweeping arcs of water. He's creating a beautiful, almost artistic, muddy moat around Brenda's SUV. He even manages a little zigzag pattern in the ensuing mud flow before focusing the main torrent back on the rapidly expanding micro-wetland. "Gotta get that deep-root penetration, Mikey!" Gus bellows down, a massive grin splitting his face. For the structural integrity of the hydrant seating. Yeah, that's it. Can't have it wobbling in an emergency. The man is a professional. He's even ad-libbing highly specific, vaguely plausible safety justifications. I am in awe of his commitment to the bit. Brenda's Escalade is no longer just muddy. It's now sitting in a rapidly expanding pond of what can only be described as primordial ooze. Its once shiny white paint job is a Jackson Pollock masterpiece of earth tones with highlights of gravel and distressed turf. It looks less like a luxury vehicle and more like an unfortunate exhibit in a museum of bog bodies. After a few more glorious, chaotic minutes that feel like they stretch into an eternity of watery vengeance, the torrent from the deluge's nozzle begins to slow. The powerful roar of the pump eases. Then, with a final, gurgling sigh, the water stops. The deluge is spent. Gus gives the lever a final, definitive shove. An almost eerie quiet descends upon Primrose Lane, broken only by Brenda's continued, albeit slightly hoarser and more breathless stream of threats, and the distant but rapidly approaching sound of sirens. Oh yeah, the sirens. I'd almost forgotten about those. "And I'll have your license, driver," Brenda is screeching, shaking her phone at Gus, who is now calmly beginning to retract the massive hose. "You'll never work in this state again, or any state with decent plumbing codes. I'll see to it that you're blacklisted from every garden center and car wash in a 500-mile radius." Gus, to his credit, just offers her a polite, almost sympathetic smile, then turns his attention back to coiling his anaconda-sized hose. The silence, punctuated by Brenda's tirade and the approaching wail, is almost as satisfying as the deluge itself. The air hangs thick with the smell of wet earth, righteous indignation, blossoming bewilderment from the assembled neighbors, and possibly, just possibly, the sweet scent of victory. Or maybe that's just wet mud. It's hard to tell. The sirens get louder, then resolve into the distinct flashing lights of 2 police cruisers pulling up to the curb. One behind the deluge, one effectively boxing Brenda in with her muddy island of an SUV. Doors open, and out step Officer Miller and Officer Davis. Miller, I recognize, mid-50s, mustache that's seen more bad decisions than a Vegas pawn shop, and an air of weary resignation that says he's witnessed every form of human folly, at least twice. Davis is younger, fresh-faced, trying to maintain a stern professional poker face, but his eyes are wide as dinner plates as he takes in the scene. The massive tanker, the swamp where a lawn used to be, the mud-caked Escalade, and Brenda, who looks like she's about to spontaneously combust. Brenda practically sprints, or rather squelches, towards them, her phone still held aloft like a tiny, ineffective scepter. "Officers! Thank heavens! Arrest this hydro-terrorist!" she screeches, pointing a trembling, mud-flecked finger at me. "And his accomplice, the tank driver! They've assaulted me, they've destroyed my vehicle! They're a menace to society! He's probably watering his lawn with illegal water." Officer Miller, a man whose patience was clearly forged in the fires of 1,000 domestic disputes and bad check calls, holds up a calming hand. "Ma'am, please, slow down! Assaulted you?" "With water!" Brenda shrieks. "And mud, gallons of it! It's emotional distress, it's vehicular vandalism! Look at my car! Look at it!" She gestures wildly at the mud-encrusted Escalade, which now looks less like a luxury vehicle and more like something dredged from the bottom of a Louisiana bayou. Officer Miller sighs, a sound that seems to carry the weight of the entire county's poor decisions, and ambles over to me. Officer Davis, meanwhile, is trying very, very hard not to look at Mr. Henderson, who is now offering him a handful of popcorn over the hedge. I see Davis's shoulders shake slightly. "All right, son," Officer Miller says, his voice calm but firm, his eyes scanning the scene with a practiced neutrality that I find deeply unsettling. "What in the Sam Hill happened here? And please, for the love of my sanity and the impending mountain of paperwork, tell me it's not what it clearly, unequivocally looks like." I take a deep breath, channeling my inner innocent, law-abiding, slightly bewildered homeowner. "Officer, it's all a simple misunderstanding, I assure you. I was just conducting some, rather intensive grounds maintenance on my property. Brenda here." I nod politely towards her. She makes a sound like a stepped-on cat. "Well, she's unfortunately been parking her vehicle in a way that consistently obstructs this public fire hydrant. Repeatedly. It's a clear safety hazard, as I'm sure you understand." I gesture towards the muddy earth around the hydrant. "So, I hired Gus's Extreme Landscaping Solutions." Gus beams and gives a little wave from beside the deluge. "To perform a deep soil saturation. You know, to improve drainage around the hydrant, ensure the ground is stable, and make it easily accessible for brave emergency crews like yourselves. The vehicle," I pause, adopting a look of profound, regretful concern, "regrettably, seems to have been within the designated splash radius of my private property landscaping project. A terrible, unforeseen coincidence." Gus, ever the showman, saunters over, wiping his hands on a greasy rag he produces from his back pocket. "Officer Miller, good to see you again. Gus Tanner at your service." They know each other? This town is smaller than I thought. "Just helping young Mikey here with some essential civic beautification and critical infrastructure support. Can't be too careful with these hydrants, eh? All my permits for water transport and responsible discharge on private property are right here in the truck, if you need to peruse 'em." He pats the official-looking binder again. "I'm pretty sure it contains a dog-eared copy of Zen and the art of motorcycle maintenance, but his confidence is infectious." Officer Davis, bless his cotton socks, has wandered over to the Escalade and is now inspecting Brenda's highly creative parking job. He looks at the hydrant, then at the clearly marked red curb, now sporting a fetching mud and grass camouflage. He then looks at the veritable lake of slurry surrounding the car. He turns away, coughing, but it sounds suspiciously, unmistakably, like a poorly suppressed laugh. I see his shoulders shaking. Officer Miller just sighs again, a long, slow exhalation of a man who's seen too much. He looks at Brenda, who is now vibrating with indignation. He looks at me, standing there looking as innocent as a newborn lamb that happens to own a very large water tanker. He looks at Gus, who is whistling cheerfully while checking the Deluge's tires. He looks at the assembled neighborhood audience, some of whom are now openly filming, providing a running commentary for their future social media posts. "Ma'am," Officer Miller says, turning back to Brenda, his voice devoid of all emotion. "With all due respect, and I mean that, your vehicle is parked directly in front of a fire hydrant. That's a clear violation of City Ordinance 34-C, subsection 2, paragraph A. I can see the red zone from here. Well, I could if it weren't currently buried under what appears to be half of Mikey's topsoil." Brenda's jaw drops. But he drowned it. He hydroblasted my imported floor mats." "He appears to have vigorously watered his lawn, ma'am," Officer Miller says, his face a perfect mask of neutrality. "Which, as far as I know, isn't strictly illegal in this county, even if it's exceptionally enthusiastic now, blocking a fire hydrant, that is." He reaches for his ticket book. The look on Brenda's face transitions from furious to apocalyptic. It's a beautiful sight. He scribbles for a moment, then tears off a ticket with a decisive rip. He hands it to Brenda. "That'll be a $200 fine, ma'am, and I'd advise getting this vehicle moved before it becomes a permanent part of the landscape." Brenda snatches the ticket as if it's personally insulted her ancestors. "This is an outrage. I'm reporting you. I know the mayor. I play bridge with his wife." "You do that, ma'am," Officer Miller says, his voice still unnervingly calm. "In the meantime, I'd suggest you call a tow truck, or maybe a very good car wash that specializes in agricultural decontamination." He then turns his attention to me and Gus. His expression is stern, but I swear I see the tiniest hint of something, amusement, respect, in his eyes. "Mikey, Gus," he says, his voice a low rumble. "While I and the entire fire department undoubtedly appreciate a well-maintained and highly visible hydrant access point, let's perhaps consider less biblical methods of achieving that in the future, eh? My paperwork on this is going to be a nightmare. I'm going to have to invent new categories of unusual incident." "Understood, officer," I say, trying to look contrite. "Just trying to be a proactive and responsible citizen. Won't happen again." I cross my fingers behind my back. "Always happy to help the community stay safe, Miller," Gus chimes in, tipping an imaginary hat. "You know me. Always by the book. Mostly." The cops, after a few more pointed looks and a stern warning to the crowd about not obstructing emergency investigations, directed mostly at Mr. Henderson, who is now trying to get Officer Davis to autograph his popcorn container, finally get back in their cruisers and depart. Brenda is left standing there, ticket clutched in her hand, beside her mud-encrusted monument to spectacularly bad parking decisions. The silence that follows is punctuated only by the gentle dripping of muddy water from the Escalade's undercarriage and the distant sound of Timmy across the street asking his mom if they can get a water tanker for his birthday. The departure of law enforcement does little to dampen the sheer spectacle. Brenda, clutching her parking ticket like a losing lottery slip, attempts to navigate the newly formed mud bog to get into her Escalade. Her expensive, white, probably designer sneakers make a series of sickening schloop noises as they sink into the mire. She lets out a small, strangled yelp of pure disgust. It's the little victories, you know? She finally wrenches the driver's side door open. It makes a sound like tearing wet cardboard, and plops into the seat, presumably coating the plush leather interior with a generous layer of topsoil and despair. Then, the moment we've all been waiting for. She tries to drive it out. The Escalade's powerful engine roars to life. The wheels spin and spin and spin some more, sending spectacular rooster tails of mud and grass flying backwards, further baptizing the already traumatized zinnias and adding a lovely abstract pattern to her garage door. The SUV, however, remains resolutely, hilariously stuck. It just digs itself deeper into its swampy prison, listing slightly to one side like a hippo taking a nap. After several minutes of this futile, mud-flinging ballet, accompanied by a soundtrack of Brenda's increasingly creative profanities, she gives up, defeated, humiliated, and very, very muddy. She has to make the call of shame to a heavy-duty tow truck. The tow truck driver, a grizzled fellow named Sal, who looks like he's seen more than his fair share of vehicular misfortune, arrives about an hour later. He takes one long, slow look at the Escalade, now resembling a forgotten prop from a Mad Max movie, then at the surrounding moat, then at me. I'm on my porch, enjoying a well-deserved iced tea and the matinee performance. Sal just whistles, low and long. "Lady," he says to Brenda, who's now wrapped in a blanket and looks like she's aged 10 years. "What in the blue blazes did you do to this thing? Try to ford the river Styx?" Watching Sal expertly winch the mud-caked behemoth from its mucky grave is, I confess, one of the most deeply satisfying experiences of my adult life. Right up there with finally assembling an IKEA bookshelf without having any leftover parts. Within hours, the videos are everywhere. The community Facebook page, next door, probably even TikTok by now. Hydrant justice on Primrose Lane. You won't believe what this homeowner did to an HOA Karen's illegally parked SUV. Local man creates spontaneous wetlands to teach parking lesson. My blurred face. Thank you, Mr. Henderson, for your surprisingly adept videography skills, is a local sensation. I'm a hero to some. A dangerous vigilante with access to heavy watering equipment to others. The HOA, after a flurry of panicked internal communications, I imagine, sends a vaguely worded letter about unconventional landscaping techniques and the importance of respecting shared community aesthetics. It's printed on flimsy paper and has all the authoritative weight of a strongly worded suggestion from a particularly timid mouse, especially after Brenda's very public, very muddy hydrant ticket becomes common knowledge. They're toothless, gloriously, wonderfully toothless. Gus, true to form, sends me a framed 8x10 glossy photo a few days later. It's an action shot of the deluge at the peak of its awesome power, water arcing gracefully towards the doomed Escalade. Underneath, in elegant gold lettering, it simply reads, "Problem solved, Gus." It now holds a place of honor above my mantelpiece, right next to Bartholomew the Gnome. And Brenda? Does Brenda, the architect of her own damp downfall, learn a valuable lesson about humility, public safety, and the karmic implications of illegal parking? I'd like to say yes. I'd like to say she emerged from this experience a changed woman, dedicated to hydrant accessibility and community harmony. But let's be honest. Some statues are just carved from pure, unadulterated entitlement, and no amount of muddy water can erode that. She's seething, of course. There are dark mutterings about lawsuits, property damage claims, emotional distress, mostly hers, but I'm sure her Escalade is traumatized too. She tries a few petty revenge tactics, a scathing, anonymous one-star review for Gus's extreme landscaping solutions that praises his overly enthusiastic commitment to saturation, which naturally backfires when dozens of people reply praising his thoroughness and asking if he does HOA dispute resolution. She even tries to get me cited for my still crumbling driveway again, but it lacks its previous sting. The moral high ground, it turns out, is a lot harder to claim when you're still scraping mud out of your tire treads. The fire hydrant, however, remains gloriously, conspicuously, beautifully clear. Brenda now parks her, professionally demuddified, but never quite the same. Escalade so far down the street it's practically in the next zip code. She glares at me whenever we cross paths, a look that could strip paint, but she says nothing. The power of well-aimed water is a potent deterrent. My patch of grass by the hydrant? It's never looked greener, never been more vibrant. It's a lush, verdant testament to the power of proactive hydration. I even install a small, tasteful, hand-painted wooden sign right at the edge of the now famous micro-wetland, which has mostly dried up, but the legend remains. It reads, "Caution, enthusiastic gardener. Hydrant access zone. Keep clear or prepare for spontaneous irrigation. You have been warned." Mr. Henderson helped me paint it. He's got a surprisingly steady hand for calligraphy. A few weeks later, I'm out front, actually watering my lawn with a regular non-weaponized sprinkler this time. A moving truck is parked down the street. A new neighbor, a young guy, wanders over, looking a bit lost. He stops, squints at my sign, then at me. A slow grin spreads across his face. "Excuse me?" he says. Are you the water tanker guy?" I can't help it. I grin back. Just a guy who likes his hydrants accessible and his lawns well-irrigated. Welcome to the neighborhood. Name's Mikey. He shakes my hand. "Dave, heard a lot about this street already. Mostly about you, actually." "Yeah, life is good." "And the fire hydrant on Primrose Lane? It is very, very safe, and just a little bit legendary." Just yesterday, Gus called. "Hey Mikey, you sitting down? Got a situation over in Willow Creek. Ladies apparently built a permanent 12-foot-tall inflatable flamingo directly over a crucial sewer main access point. Says it's festive." City's wringing their hands. "You busy next Tuesday?" I look at my calendar. Tuesday's looking surprisingly open. A slow smile spreads across my face. "Tell me more about this flamingo, Gus. Does it, by any chance, look thirsty?" Some people just never learn. And honestly, I'm kind of glad they don't. It keeps things interesting.